Hey, what's going on guys, and before the review starts, I just want to give a quick thank you mention to the online learning community Skillshare, who are officially my very first sponsor. They're doing a lot to support the channel, which is hopefully going to mean more videos from me, so stay tuned to the end of the video so you can hear all about them. Anyway, on with the review. Good Spyro games. It's been 84 years. Okay, 18. Feels like 84. I mean, how much longer am I gonna have to wait until I get a good, new Spyro game and... Time to dive right in and... Oh. Right. Yeah. I already beat every level in this remake. I saved every dragon, unlocked every achievement and skill point, collected every gem, orb, talisman and egg, and even went as far as to farm 99 lives just for the thrill of seeing another number counter go up.
Video games, when you want to give yourself the illusion you're getting shit done.
I'm gonna go review it now, at least that's a little bit more productive. Cue the music!
Spyro the Dragon. Look, if you were a kid in the late 90s, early 2000s and happen to own a PS1, chances are you're pretty familiar with this cool customer.
And how of late he sucked ass, but we'll get to that.
Now, platformers and collectathons were pretty dominant during the days of the PS1 and N64, and developer Insomniac gave us 3 of the best games those genres had to offer. 1998 Spyro the Dragon, 1999 Spyro 2 Gateway to Glimmer,
or Ripto's Rage if you're not European,
and 2000's Spyro Year of the Dragon. I played these games religiously as a kid. The controls were tight, the characters were fun and memorable, collecting shit was gratifying as hell,
and the graphics were actually fantastic for the time.
But you play them now and yeah, they're a little lacking in the polygon department.
But come on people, with a certain orange marsupial getting a modern day remake, it was only a matter of time before his fellow purple PlayStation star did.
Cause like Crash, Spyro went to shit post PS1. Developer Insomniac left to do Ratchet & Clank, and Spyro was handed off to inexperienced, time-restricted developers and/or people who had no clue what they were doing. With buggy releases, games bereft of charm, and character designs that got worse and worse and worse, and oh my god, what the fuck did they do to you, man?
I think we need to euthanize it. It looks like it has a fatal skin condition.
And as such, Spyro's been pretty dormant for years now, but along now has come a saviour in the form of developer Toys for Bob, who have just released a graphical overhaul of the first 3 classic Spyro games for modern day consoles. This is the Spyro Reignited Trilogy, and we're here today to talk about how this package remake compares to the old games. Cause let's say you've never played Spyro before, are you better off buying this remake, or is it just more common sense to buy the old games on Virtual Console?
Well, let's find out.
Number 1. I'm a remastered fawn, you dork. So Spyro games aren't too focused on narrative or characters, but let's start off by discussing that aspect of the games anyway, because characters like Hunter, Alora, Bianca and Spyro himself are chock-a-block full of personality, and I was dying to see how these retro styles would translate to modern day.
First off, Toys for Bob have done a fantastic job with the character designs.
Spyro is finally back to the way he should look. Characters like Agent 9, Sergeant Bird and Bianca are extremely faithful to their original designs. And then you got characters like Alora, Sheila and Moneybags, who do look a bit different. But that's not a bad thing. Now, initially I was a little put off by their designs.
I mean, Sheila's belt looks like it's gonna suffocate her. Oh god.
And Alora, well, I just found her enlarged pupils and her facial colour scheme a little too different. But after playing through the trilogy, the designs actually grew on me, as their modern look makes them a lot more expressive than they were before. In fact, only one of the major character designs lack my personal seal of approval.
I mean, I get that the professor is a mole, but hiding his eyes like that just looks unsettling. There we go, that's better.
I can see
But whilst the designs of the characters I overall found pretty strong,
the voice cast, well, I can't sing their praises as much.
I mean, I will initially, because a lot of the original voice cast does return. Tom Kenny, most famous as the voice of SpongeBob SquarePants, returns as Spyro, and it's so good to hear him in the role again. Tom Kenny is Spyro the Dragon. I mean, did you know they actually got bloody Elijah Wood to voice Spyro once? I mean, I love you, Elijah, but Spyro should not be voiced by fucking Frodo Baggins. But you've also got Richard Tatum back as Agent 9, who's just as wacky as ever, and Tom Kenny kills it in his more secondary roles. Like, did you know he also voices the Professor and Sergeant Bird too? This man has some unbelievable range. But there's also a lot of changes in the cast, and don't get me wrong, no one does a bad job, but a lot of these new voices just don't hold a candle to the original. Moneybags in particular is a bit of a downgrade. In the original Year of the Dragon, voice actor Neil Ross made Moneybags into a right lovable smug arsehole. He was just brilliant.
What a sucker. That is, it's a far, far better thing you do today, Spyro, than you have ever done, and, well, so forth, etc. You get the idea.
In the new games, however, one JP Blanc turns him into more of a stereotypical posh British aristocrat. And he doesn't do a bad job by any stretch of the imagination, but Moneybags was more than just a stereotype. He had his own unique flair of douchebaggery that these new games don't quite nail. Hunter, though, I found to be a bigger step down. In the original games, Greg Berger portrayed him as an immensely likable, fun, lovable dork.
Maybe this isn't such a good idea. Bringing a dragon here could just make Ripto angrier.
Calm down, Hunter, and stop fidgeting.
In the remake, however, Robbie Damon portrays him as more of a skater bro, dude.
Whoa, that was sweet! And look, there was another egg in the lizard burrow.
Sorry, Hunter is not meant to be portrayed that confidently.
In fact, I think the developers realized this and had to change some scenes to fit his character better, even if it meant ruining a joke. Take this scene in the original Spyro 2, for example.
Hunter, do something! Quick!
Hey, give that back! Well, I tried.
Fun moment, right? Well, in the remake, they do this.
Hunter, do something! Quick!
Hey! Give that back! Well, I tried.
Ugh, come on guys, the whole joke there was that he didn't try. How do you screw up a joke that was already made for you?
But you know what's weird about Hunter's portrayal? It's that Greg Berger, the original voice actor for Hunter,
does actually return to voice characters in this game.
Yeah, they just had him voice Ripto and gave Hunter's voice acting duties to the same guy who voiced Prompto in Final Fantasy 15.
I don't know why they did this.
My best theory is that Greg Berger was asking for too much money, and they only had enough to pay him for the limited Ripto lines. Regardless, Berger is missed in the role.
But where the voice cast I thought really tanked were with all the portrayals of the various world's inhabitants.
You know, all the more minor characters you meet in each world. Take these fun little ice cavern guys in the original games, for example.
Spyro, the ice wizards have imprisoned our leader, Shaman Tuck. Can you help us rescue him? It is urgent. He has our tickets to tonight's hockey game in Colossus Valley.
And listen to how they sound now.
Spyro, the ice wizards have imprisoned our leader.
Ugh, God, that's awful. What the hell did you guys do? Rope in some random intern you had around the office to do that voice? God, how many voice actors do we have to hire for this damn thing? Billy, get over here. Yes, boss? Here, read this line in your best growly voice. But I'm not a voice actor. Read it or you're fired. Spyro, the ice wizards have imprisoned our leader. Stop, that'll do. Get him in the booth. Blah. Or take these quirky monks from Colossus in the original games.
I thought the Yeti was tougher than that. I guess he was all bark. Anyway.
Idiot. Okay, but let's now have them sound more like stereotypical monks.
I thought the Yeti was tougher than that. I guess he was all bark. Ruff, ruff.
You see how you need a more cartoony voice for that line of work? Or what about Sheila's goat companions? Here's the original.
Last time we tried to get past his moose, he knocked Billy clean through a wall.
fucking love that line. But here's the remake.
Last time we tried to get past this moose, he knocked Billy clean through a wall.
Yep, not doing it for me.
I seriously could go on and on here. Most NPCs are severely lacking the charisma and quirkiness they had in the originals. But regarding the subpar voice work, it honestly made me wish there was an option in the menu to switch to the old voice cast. Who knows, maybe a talented fan might make that a mod someday. Oh, and the overall direction of the game's cutscenes also make this remake a lot more kid-friendly.
Which I think is a bad thing.
Take Ripto for instance. In the old games, he was goofy of course, but he occasionally had more menacing moments which I think made him a better villain, and therefore made you more pumped to fight him. Now he's pretty much all played for laughs, and I don't think it fits.
But to each his own, maybe kids of today might prefer this new approach. Anyway, let's glide on over the gameplay.
Number 2. The adventure begins. Again. So Spyro 1 through 3 are relatively basic platformers in the same vein as 3D Mario, Crash Bandicoot and Banjo-Kazooie. But Spyro is unique in that he can pull off a charge attack which doubles as a sprint button, he can breathe fire, and more importantly, he can glide, which makes the platforming experience here something you won't find anywhere else. Now, the remake changes nothing in terms of gameplay, but the controls have thankfully been modernized. You see, the PS1 games didn't make full use of the analog stick, so Spyro was limited to only 8 directions, which for a 3D platform game wasn't ideal. But now we have 2 thumbsticks to use. The left controls Spyro, the right controls the camera. This makes controlling Spyro an absolute joy.
I mean, I guess that is a weird praise to give a game in 2018.
This control scheme is just standard now, but this is, I think, the best reason to play the new games over the old ones. Now, to accommodate for the slightly different control scheme, Spyro's flame attack can now be pulled off with one of the shoulder buttons, which is something I made full use of as it allowed me to have Spyro use his flame attack while I was controlling the camera at the same time.
This is kind of similar to how racing games have evolved.
If you play a racing game in the days of the PS1 and 2, you used X to accelerate. Now racing games have moved accelerate to R2. Moving more function to the shoulder buttons in games has been a welcome evolution to game control, and the Reignited Trilogy has made good use of that. Though I would have liked it had they moved the jump button to the shoulder keys as well, as then you would barely ever have to move your right thumb in between the analog stick and the major 4 phase buttons.
But that's just a nitpicky suggestion.
Okay, let's now talk about gliding, as there's 2 things I wanted to mention. You see, in Spyro 2 and 3, Spyro has the ability to hover at the end of his glide to get some extra distance. The original Spyro 1 though didn't have that, and Toys for Bob have chosen not to incorporate it into the respective remake. But to compensate, Spyro has this new ability where if he just misses a glide, he'll automatically hop over the ledge. This is a nice new feature for Spyro 1 and it saved my ass a few times. But regarding the hover mechanic, this is one aspect of the new games that doesn't control as well. You see, in the old games, the very second Spyro enters a glide, he can hover immediately, which came in handy for shorter gaps. In the new games though, the hover has a time lock, where Spyro has to have been gliding for at least a second before he can pull off a hover. For if you attempt to hover too soon, Spyro will just drop out of the glide. This took a while to get used to, and I ended up getting a little frustrated with it, as it took me a while to figure out what I was even doing wrong. But once you adapt, it's not that bad.
Now once you start playing Spyro 3, you'll unlock the ability to play as 4 more characters.
Sheila, Sergeant Bird, Bentley, and Agent 9. Now, Sergeant Bird and Agent 9 control great, as the new controls modernize their movements rather effectively. Sheila and Bentley though suffer a bit more. You see, Spyro in this game feels lighter than before, which makes controlling him a dream. But Sheila for some reason felt much heavier. Her kick attack has seriously been nerfed in the range department, and she's just not as free-flowing in her movement as I'd have liked. And Bentley, well, his controls aren't bad, but why is his camera now off-center? Because it wasn't like that before. I mean, I did get used to it, but it felt really off at first. Wasn't a fan of this.
Okay, so we've discussed gameplay, but this is a graphical remaster, so let's actually get to what matters most here.
Number 3. Trouble with the frame rate, eh? So as privy to the gameplay you've already seen, this goes without saying. This remaster does a fab job of updating Spyro to the modern day. Everything from enemies and collectibles to the levels themselves are bursting with colour and detail. Hell, some of the more unfamiliar levels, despite being faithfully recreated, had me like,
I've no memory of this place.
And Toys for Bob didn't skimp out on the little details. Look how Spyro's flame burns the grass around him. Look how vibrantly chests and vases smash open, or how Spyro's tail brushes the grass as he stands still. It's attention to detail like this that adds up. The lighting work is spectacular too, Spyro's flame being quite aesthetic in this regard, as it lights up nearby walls and objects as you use it. Oh, and the draw distance, as you'd expect, is much better. I sometimes would look off in the distance and think to myself, wow, I couldn't see that far before. All this extra detail is fantastic, so much so that the game's longer loading times didn't bother me that much, as I would usually take this opportunity to check what the Xbox achievement was for the upcoming level. Hell, even a weird glitch as a level loaded more just fascinated me than anything.
I don't think he's coming back.
So yeah, can't fault the graphics. The frame rate on the other hand...
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not awful, but occasional slowdown is noticeable, and in a game that's all about remastering older titles, of which had zero frame rate issues themselves by the way, yeah, that's a problem. I should not be experiencing better performance out of a 24-year-old 32-bit system.
Now, I honestly feel like Toys for Bob went a little overboard with the graphics.
True, the game looks stunning, but if the frame rate has to take a hit, well, it's not worth it then, is it? 90% of gamers are more than happy to forego texture and lighting quality if it means a smoother gaming experience.
Like, you know how PC games have graphics settings galore?
So you can adjust texture quality for a higher frame rate? Yeah, why don't console games have that? I mean, some do, but it should be a standard feature by now. What harm could come from it? It'd be especially nice in this game, as then we could remove the rather excessive motion blur.
Now, this has split players quite a bit.
Some aren't affected at all, but a lot of people, myself included, found it a little jarring to the eyes. It's clear they've added this to try to mask the low frame rate, but as a result, it's apparently causing some players to experience some light motion sickness.
Come on, Toys for Bob, just release a patch that allows us to switch off the motion blur. How hard could that be to implement?
But what about the soundtrack? Well, if like me you played these games as a kid, these songs will forever be ingrained in your mind.
Seriously, Stuart Copeland essentially wrote the soundtrack to my childhood, whether it be the oddly futuristic beat of the fireworks factory, the memorable flute melody of Frozen Altars, or the downright zen feeling you get from many of the homeworlds. That's the shit right there.
And remember when I wished there was an option to switch back to the old voice cast? Well, they've actually made that feature for the music. Hop into the options menu and you can switch between the original and Reignited Trilogy soundtracks as you see fit. And this is a welcome addition, though I never personally employed it here.
Why? Well, because of the new dynamic music feature.
Now, I don't know if other games have used this, but all games now should. You see, the music in the Reignited Trilogy adapts to the environment Spyro is in by changing things like reverberation and volume. Pay close attention, notice the change in sound as Spyro enters and exits a building. This is really cool, and it's especially noticeable with headphones, of which I always personally use when gaming. It just makes the music feel more part of the world, as opposed to it just feeling overlaid on the game. More games need to start doing this, it's a really neat and immersive feature.
But here's the thing that bothers me most about this remake. True, it's incredibly faithful to the originals, but it's also incredibly faithful to the originals. Let me explain.
Number 4. They knocked any new features clean through a wall. Yeah, the problem of doing a by-the-numbers remaster of a game is that any issues plagued by the old versions are still prevalent in the new one.
First off, there's the boss battles.
Now in Spyro 2 and 3, they're fine, but the ones in the first game are awful. You just follow them a bunch of times and flame them when there's an opening. They're just so easy, and whilst that was fine for 1998, now it's a tad unacceptable. Toys for Bob could have updated them, but they chose not to.
Secondly, there's the various mini-challenge missions.
Now, Spyro 1 was lacking in those, but Spyro 2 introduced NPCs with various objectives to introduce some more gameplay variety. Tasks include things like flame all these lamps before the timer runs out, win this game of hockey, or fend off enemy waves. And some of these objectives can definitely be fun, like the skateboarding minigames for instance, but so many are just a downright chore to play. I think the worst one is found in the spooky swamp level in Spyro 3, where you have to stomp mushrooms as Sheila to make way for these two guys carrying bombs. It just turns into a horrendous game of trial and error, and it is ungodly boring. This mission should have been updated. Hell, it would have been better if it was just removed.
Then you got that fucking alchemist in Fracture Hills,
whose escort mission turns into yet another trial and error farce as you charge at these big stone dudes where you try to find out where the hell this thorny fuck is gonna go. Quick tip by the way, don't do this mission until you've learned how to head bash, otherwise you'll have to do it twice. Then you have this asshole in Zephyr, who wants you to return these cow things to a pen, but charging and flaming these buggers to where you want them to go will surely test your patience. Or what about that shitty boxing minigame? Toys for Bob could have updated it, maybe turn it into a light Punch-Out clone, but no, it's the same as before. You just mash buttons and hope for the best. It's shit. Then there's the fuck ton of fly through the rings missions. There is an alarming amount of them, and when your game starts to resemble a certain notorious N64 release, you know you're doing something wrong.
And while a lot of these missions could do with an update, I think what would have helped Spyro adapt to modern day more is more rewards.
You see, Spyro games are huge collectathons. Collecting shit is what you spend about 90% of the game doing, and as such, players should be rewarded for their gathering efforts.
And look, you are to an extent.
Collect enough gems and you get to unlock some more levels, and then there's that certain unlock you get at the end of Spyro 2, which I don't want to spoil.
But this is 2018, why not give us some more goodies?
Like new clothing items for Spyro, for example.
I want to play through the game with those sweet shades on.
Or maybe if you collect enough gems, you can pay to get your charge speed increased, or your flame attack could get more range, or maybe you can unlock that ice breath you get in Frozen Altars, and as such you could use it in every level.
I could go on and on with unlock ideas. Gather enough gems and you can unlock the following.
The ability to switch between old and new graphics on the fly, special behind the scenes featurettes where you can see what went into making the game, newly designed levels not in the original releases.
Treat us a bit, guys.
There's just no notable unlocks here, and it makes collecting all these gems feel kinda pointless, especially in the first game as they do literally nothing.
Well, okay, apart from a secret bonus level.
But guess what? This stage has you doing nothing but collect yet more gems, of which truly have zero use. You're left with 14,000 gems at the end of the game, and you're like,
yay, I guess?
The only new unlock that Toys for Bob have added are related to the expanded skill point missions. Complete enough of them and you get to unlock artwork.
Fascinating.
Hell, it's not even concept art where you could see rejected designs of characters, for example. No, it's just drawings of characters you could easily find through a quick Google image search.
I was just so desperate for something new here.
In fact, when I beat Spyro 1, my heart jumped a beat when I found this door in the first homeworld. It's just behind where you start, and if you charge into it, it actually moves. What's in here? There's gotta be something. Or is this door gonna be the new Mew truck where everyone's convinced there's something there but there actually isn't? Toys for Bob have just been so unwilling to change anything, so much so that the various appearances of Zoe giving me tutorials on the game's controls are all still here. Yes, Zoe, I think I know how to glide by now. How about instead you teach me about Sparks' gem finding ability? Yeah, while Zoe tells me that large enemies can't be charged for the 20 millionth time, what I didn't know when starting to play was that by holding down R3, Sparks will point to the nearest treasure.
Why you no tell me that, Zoe?
That would have been a welcome bit of information to know after my 40th round trip of Stonehill looking for that last gem.
But screw that, you got far more useful advice to give.
To quickly center the camera behind you, tap the center camera button.
To center camera, use the center camera button.
But if I may defend Toys for Bob for a moment, the Reignited Trilogy does actually retail at a reduced cost, and considering you're getting 3 games in one here, yeah, I shouldn't be too hard on it, as much as I wish they had added some extra elements. Like, have you ever noticed how in Spyro 2, there's several interactions between Spyro and Ripto, but in Spyro 3, Spyro and the Sorceress never say a word to each other? Yeah, why not add a cutscene just before you face the Sorceress so she and Spyro could have a much needed interaction? You could do the same thing with Nasty Knock too. Or in Spyro 2, notice how there's summer, autumn and winter themed homeworlds, but there's no spring one. How cool would it have been if Toys for Bob gave us a whole new homeworld to explore built from the ground up?
One that maybe you unlock at the end of Spyro 2, which could be designed around the use of that 100% power-up unlock, so you'd actually have somewhere to use it.
Then there's the Speedways, and for a game that debuts on 2 consoles with expansive online capabilities,
why aren't there any online leaderboards?
The Crash remake had that, so why not here?
Look, at the end of the day, I've had literally 18 years to think about this, so don't think worse of Toys for Bob for not including all my ideas. I'm just salty because I waited almost 2 decades for this game to come out, and I managed to beat it in just a few days. Anyway, let's conclude.
Make no mistake, the Spyro Reignited Trilogy is truly a must-play for Spyro fans, and it serves as a fantastic gateway for newcomers. Yes, I'm recommending any new players forgo the old games and start with the remake. Now, sure, some aspects of the games haven't aged too well.
But honestly, what games from the 90s do hold up perfectly?
The new controls breathe new life into the gameplay, the graphics are wonderful, albeit hampered by the occasional frame rate drop, and just damn, it's so good to have new life injected into one of my fondest childhood game franchises. My time spent with the Reignited Trilogy was just pure nostalgic bliss, and I'd be more than happy if Toys for Bob decided to remaster more classic games of the past.
Now, it's difficult to work out a good score for a remaster, but I'm gonna go with my gut feeling and give the Spyro Reignited Trilogy an 8.
I truly would have liked to have seen more added, some extra features or levels perhaps so returning players could have some more surprises in store, but I think that's indicative of my next wish, that Toys for Bob return to Spyro in the near future and give us a true Spyro 4. The Reignited Trilogy has apparently been selling pretty well, reaching #1 in the UK sales chart upon release, so I think the interest is there. Or maybe seeing as how Toys for Bob were involved in the development of the Crash Insane Trilogy, why not truly partner up with Vicarious Visions and give us that next-gen Spyro Crash crossover that fans have been wanting for years? Dare I dream?
Thanks so much for watching, guys, but you know what else I dare dream of? Being able to make YouTube videos full-time. And that, my friends, could soon be possible thanks to today's incredible sponsor, Skillshare. Oh, I nailed that segue. Skillshare is an online learning community with class numbers that reach, what's a good technical unit of measurement to use here? A crap load. With classes in design, technology, business, and here's a personal use of mine, video editing. Yep, there's extensive classes on the Adobe suite of programs, and despite me having years of video editing experience, I'm still learning new things with Skillshare.
That is awesome!
That it is.
Premium membership gives you unlimited access to high quality classes from actual experts working in their fields, so you can improve your skills, unlock new opportunities, and do the work you love. Skillshare is also more affordable than most learning platforms out there, with an annual subscription costing less than $10 a month. Cracking value if I do say so myself. And for the first 500 people to sign up via the link in the description, you'll get 2 months of Skillshare Premium for absolutely free.
For free?
For free, John Lithgow. For free. Skillshare. You'll learn so much you'll find that past you as an absolute dumbass. And I'm being serious about Skillshare making YouTube much more feasible full-time, so I want to give a personal thank you to them for sponsoring me. Much love. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Peace out.